agenda will be to review and approve the minutes from November. Has anyone had a chance to look at those, and any comments about those?
Did we copy them? I'm not sure. Copy those on.
Did you get a chance to send those out to him, Cheryl?
Yes, I did send them out with the agenda.
Okay. Did anyone have any questions about those? Probably been so long, no one can remember all those details, if I had to guess. Do we have a motion then to approve them?
Yeah, I submit a motion to approve the minutes of November.
Okay, do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? Very good. Probably what we'll do too is going forward, when we can get a full quorum, when the commission is fully staffed, I think that's when we will look to actually get a chair and do some other things, and then they'll be able to run the meeting as opposed to me. But we'll wait until we get all the other three members on board. Project updates. So I'll give you a little update on some of the things that we have going on. I'll share my screen here just to get everyone kind of up to date. I'll start off with, I'll probably show this window first. Can you guys all see my screen?
Roundabout.
Okay, the first project, the 4th West and 12th South roundabout. This project is nearly complete in its design. What we're doing now is we're in the right-of-way phase. We did purchase this home here. We did that about a year ago. And now we're working with UVU to get the right-of-way that we'll need for this portion of the roundabout, as well as some of this area here. And then we're also working with the church to get the property acquired for this, as well as the temporary construction easement. So right now, I'm in the process of having an appraisal updated, more current costs. And then I'll be working with CBRE. They're the representative for the church, and we will get some costs identified and then move forward with getting that property. The project is also, we're working with Rocky Mountain Power. You can kind of see these faint lines right here, and then here as well. There's some overhead power that runs right through the middle of this area. We're working with them on a redesign to either keep that power above ground, likely put in a few poles and some angle points, or if we can, try to put that underground at least on one of the legs. And it might be this north-south leg, because I think it terminates currently right here in this area underground. So they're going to work on a few designs for us, and then we'll see how much the cost is. If this was a completely city-funded project, Rocky Mountain Power would be doing the relocation all on their own dime. It's part of our franchise agreement. But since this project is funded with MAG money, Mountain Land Association of Governments, there's a 50-50 cost share where Rocky Mountain Power will pay for half, and then we pay for half. And I guess we trust that their half is truly half and not just our half. Other project we have going on is we're working with UDOT on 16th North. They're moving forward with their state environmental study. What they're doing right now is that they are getting the corridor cleared. They do have a preferred alternative where essentially the roadway is along the south side through here, and then it kind of swings up a little bit here to the north in this area, and then it ties into the intersection. They do have in there showing that we stay along the south side. These homes are not purchased with a frontage road type system there, similar to what we have on 8th South and 800 East. And down here at this intersection of 12th West and 16th North is a very large power pole, and they're looking to keep it there and then have this right turn lane come in behind it. So this home would be purchased, trying to say not necessarily completely south, but kind of a little bit more to the north, so they're not having to purchase this gas station and these units along here. And it's just the environmental clearance process. And what they do is they're going through, they're looking at the corridor, they're identifying any historic homes, they're looking at the environmental impacts, they look at all the different alignments. And what they're essentially doing is then moving forward saying, okay, getting the approval from the state to go ahead and do the work there from an environmental standpoint. And then once that's cleared and accepted, then they'll move forward with design. So the design will be a little challenging in that it was funded a few years ago at $40 million. But with the recent COVID, supply chain issues, labor force issues, this project is probably closer to around $45 to $50 million. So there's a little bit of a shortfall. So they're a little concerned that some of the components may not be part of the design because of cost, and that might be this frontage road piece here. But we really don't know until they get it designed and we bid it. So that's kind of the status of 16th North. Another project that's happening via UDOT is Geneva Road. They are in the process of, they're doing two things with this project. One, UDOT back in 2010 actually did an environmental study, and they had cleared and identified Geneva Road to be a 5-lane facility from University Parkway down to 2000 South. In that time, Orem has done a transportation master plan. We've done some other planning with Provo, with UDOT and things of that nature. And in our transportation master plan, we've actually identified Geneva Road to be a 5-lane facility to the south to this general area where our proposed Lakeview Parkway would tie in. At that point, Geneva Road would be a 3-lane facility, and we would have an intersection in such a manner that it would angle this 5-lane facility to come down and then continue south into Provo, and then eventually it would terminate down here at the airport. So what UDOT is doing right now is they're reevaluating their environmental study to find out, hey, do we need to take the 5 lanes completely down through? Likewise, I think they were authorized $20 million for this project. Again, with the costs that are increasing, they're looking to reduce that scope. And right now, in their design phase, they're looking to carry the 5 lanes down roughly to where our Lakeview Parkway is going to be. And then from that point to the south, it would be a 3-lane facility. I've had meetings with them every other week. Now we're looking at the drainage as far as what we're going to do with the stormwater. When the temple was built, we coordinated with them to upsize some storm drain line that would run here to the north, connect into our system, and then it takes it out here to the lake. So in meetings with UDOT, I reminded them of that. So hopefully we can have some cost savings and we can get a portion of this roadway built. Likely construction for this would start I think they're looking at summer, maybe some late summer of 23, maybe early spring of 24. They're trying to look to see, because the temple is about, I think they said they're about 14 months. Well, what I heard is I asked our building official if the schedule was behind a little bit on the temple, and what he said that once they hang the sheetrock in the celestial room, it takes them about 14 months to do all that finish work. And they just hung all of that in December. So they will actually, so the temple might have its C of O by about this time next year, but they probably won't have all of their other landscaping and some of the other surface or site work done. So I think they're shooting for an open house for that summer with a dedication in the fall of 23. So with that being said, and understanding how temples during that process are very, very busy, kind of a really weird traffic pattern, they would wait until the temple was actually dedicated and then they would start construction, because then you can have a little bit more, what you call it, a little bit more predictable traffic pattern, and then they can do what they need to for that project. And then the other large project, like I said before, was Lakeview Parkway. We a few years ago had some funding from MAG, and we did what we call a pre-environmental study. We just hired a consultant, looked at some of the site constraints, looked at design standards as far as what you would need to have for curves if you were at 45 miles an hour, and they developed a plan to where we'd have an intersection here. Geneva Road would come down and angle in, and they have it set up to be a four-legged intersection, and then you would 5 lanes in, 5 lanes continuing south, and then we would carry that right to this point, which is the Orem and Provo border at 2000 South. You would take a left turn, and then you would continue down Geneva Road on a 3-lane facility. So we did that pre-environmental study. We had some plans, some conceptual drawings, and now with Geneva Road is pretty much a surprise for engineering staff that was what UDOT wanted to spend money on. And then with Provo now finally having a majority of the right-of-way procured for their piece of it, this year for the MAG's tip selection, which is Transportation Improvement Project, we are moving forward with getting that portion, Orem's portion of Lakeview Parkway, fully funded. Now, the ask for that, the consultant gave us an estimate of about $18 million. So we will be obligated for a 6.7% match of that, which is a little north of $1 million. So we will be starting that with our budgeting process this year to start putting away some money, so that when this money is available for the project, which is going to be about 2025, 2026, we'll have our match money available, and then we can go ahead and move forward and build the project. Likely, we'll start doing some environmental work, maybe some right-of-way, some corridor preservation, look at some of the right-of-way that we need to procure for this ahead of the time, understanding that we should be able to get approved for this with this upcoming funding cycle. But that's kind of where we're at for major projects in the city. Some other things that we're in the works with, as far as some of the future items, Vineyard is in the process of getting their contracts written up and to relocate the spur line that comes through their city. Right now, they're working with Union Pacific Railroad to reroute this spur line that parallels Geneva Road, and they'll take it and then curve it through this industrial area and then still continue north, but it'll happen north of our 16th North, and it'll service those areas in Linden. There is one small component in order to happen for us to abandon Center Street or allow us to widen Center Street is they need to put in a piece of sidetrack in here, so that when they come in to offload for BMC, that they can go ahead and turn around their engine. So that's one small piece of that whole project. And once that is done, then we can go ahead and move forward with a past project we had to widen Center Street to have five lanes throughout this whole section. We're also going to have money available in 2023 to redo this intersection at 12th West and Center Street. So what we're going to do, partnering with MAG, they're going to move some money forward, and we're going to hire a consultant to reevaluate this section in here to make sure that, one, we have enough money in there for it, and then two, widen it, or is the design going to be adequate? So we'll reevaluate that, but we'll also include this intersection so that when we do move forward with the project to widen Center Street, we'll do this work and the intersection work all at the same time. The intersection here, what we're looking to do is there's a huge deficiency for left turners coming off of 12th West and then continuing to go northbound on I-15. This intersection will need to be widened to allow those dual lefts. This will allow these guys to do dual lefts. I believe we're going to also, but because of spacing and stacking and how this intersection it's not very efficient, we're going to take the left turns from Center Street to 12th, and we're going to relocate those further east and have them turn around here and then come back. That way we can widen this a little bit more, because there's a huge deficiency in the stacking and queuing for the folks that head westbound that need to turn south, which is usually me when I'm trying to leave here at work. And what we do, or what I do, is I'll actually get in this through lane on the outside one, and I'll come through, and then as soon as I get past the intersection, I merge in, and then I leave. But usually, because of the way this left turn is right here, it'll stack up, pass through this intersection, and it's a mess. So that would be what we would try and do with that money there, is try and move that together and do one large project. Another item that we're doing is I'm coordinating with MAG, and we have funding currently now. Years ago, we had a project approved to put here at 4th East and 16th North, and it was for a roundabout. Well, roundabouts are great for moving cars. It's not exactly the best thing for an intersection with a lot of pedestrians.
Yeah.
So what we're going to do here is that with that money we have set aside for the roundabout, we're going to move some forward. MAG is going to coordinate with Orem and the county, because the trail is actually operated by the county, and we will hire a consultant to see if there's any other treatments that we can do in here. We have thought about putting in a scramble crosswalk, which would allow pedestrians or cyclists to cross at an angle. When that happens, all of these phases for the traffic signal need to go red, which is fine, but usually those operate a little bit more efficiently if there's more vehicular traffic and a little more pedestrian traffic. So what we're trying to solve here is compliance, because this corridor isn't exactly bumper to bumper 24/7. Folks come up to here, and because this is in coordination, they'll just go ahead and cross, and maybe they don't have the walk sign, and then when they get to this corner, or if it's at this corner, if they don't decide to go this way, they decide to go this way, there's usually enough gaps in this on 16th North that people will go ahead and cross illegally. And that's what we're trying to avoid, is we want to try and increase the compliance both with the peds and cyclists as well as the vehicles. So we're trying to look at some things to do. We did look at maybe it's better if we put, we look to purchase some property in here and we take the trail this way. We put a pedestrian signal in here, and then we convey them up this way somehow and cross. Maybe that's a solution. Or maybe we do some improvements to this intersection where maybe we put in, I know it's a bad word, Jeff, but maybe we put in a bulb out in here to where a pedestrian is actually out here a little bit further, because we did have a pretty close call where there was, I think it was heading southbound, heading west. There was a child here, and kids get pretty excited. As soon as they see that walk sign, they just launch out there. Well, that kid launched, and the car here didn't see him, and there was an accident. So we're looking at maybe doing something like that to help out with some safety. These corners are pretty tight. We wouldn't necessarily want to do them, say, on, let's see, when I was looking at it, we don't necessarily want to take away the right turn lanes, but maybe we do something in these areas to kind of create a little bit more of a refuge area for pets and get them a little more visible. The reality is, it's hard because there needs to be a lot of training that needs to happen, and I think overall people, both people in vehicles and people using some sort of active transportation, need to stop and look, and there's starting to be more and more of that type of transportation going on. So I think we just need to slow down and look a little bit, but everyone's so busy they kind of seem to forget about that. But anyway, those are some of the things we're doing here at this intersection.
It really helped when they put the red flags up there. At least you can throw the flag at the woman who's on her phone and they'll notice you. I cross that every day. I'm a walker. This is Bernie's wife. That is a terrifying intersection. So I agree, you need to do something because people are on their phones.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing, to your point, is like the best thing that helps is some sort of a vertical displacement. I mean, if you put in rumble strips, I don't know, I think I've said this to you guys before, when I was traveling down to St. George and they had crews out doing some crack sealing on the freeway. And you could see from miles away that they had cones up, or excuse me, they had drums up. They had some VMS signs. Hey, there's construction ahead, but they put those 3 or 4 little consecutive rumble strips. And when you hit those in the lane, then you looked up and you started to look around. And as much as folks don't, I mean, and I get it, but I mean, speed tables, raised crosswalks, things like that, where it kind of displaces you a little bit, gets your attention. And it's kind of what we need to have, because you got too many people out using that same roadway, and it's not necessarily for cars. I mean, as Jeff and I have listened, I mean, you got people that run in the road, and it's their right to run in the road. It's not for cars to drive anymore. It's for all kinds of things, but we need to get people to slow down and react. And I don't know. I really don't know what else to do, because you can sign it and you can stripe it, but if it doesn't do anything to you, if it doesn't make you slow down, it doesn't make you feel uncomfortable, it's a big challenge.
Yeah.
And lastly, there is one local type improvement that's being funded by the city. We are looking to put in a signalized intersection here. This is 4th South and 4th West. What's happening here at this area is we're putting in a 10 million gallon water tank. We have purchased 4.2 acres here in this area. This orchard owner, Mr. Farley, he owns the last 1.5 acres. So we own this piece in here, and with this project happening, where we'll have a tank in this area, a booster pump station and a well, then we'll also put in this signalized intersection here as part of that project. So we're going to be putting in a signalized intersection there, and then we're also doing some minor adjustments to this intersection with Midtown 360 coming in. We had them develop this right turn pocket, and then we purchased some property here. We will develop this pocket as well, and then that intersection will be pretty much done. And then other than that, we do have other projects that have been identified in our transportation master plan, and we'll just kind of take those as they come to see which one becomes more of a priority, whether it's development driven or there's accidents or things like that. So that's pretty much all I have for project updates and future items. I can't think of, I guess going back, our transportation master plan, we still are moving forward with that. We had them recalibrate some of the counts. They had some bad counts in this area of Orem, so we're moving through and getting that updated, and that should be, I should have a draft of that to you guys here before 2 too long, so you guys can review that and provide some comments, and then we'll move forward with taking that to the council for their approval. Any other questions or comments, concerns?
Where does State Street, I'm sorry, where does State Street fit into this? Is that, do we have anything to do with that, or is that state? Or?
So State Street is a UDOT facility, and I'm glad you mentioned that too. There is another project. It's called the State Street Mobility Project. It'll happen this summer. They'll be putting in medians here in this area on Center Street. They will be similar to what we did last year on this east leg of Center Street, where we lengthened this left turn back through and made this just a right in, right out, as well as this in. No, actually, I think this one is full access, but we did limit our access. They will do the same thing on this side. They'll extend this median back, and then they'll bring it back in here. So this side will have one big, long, continuous median, and then there'll also be a median up here through 100 North. I think it will allow a left turn in, but it won't allow a left turn out. But that project, and it'll also be extending this left turn capacity here. This one already has it, but they'll just be putting in a median, I believe, through here. So that's the other project. Now, State Street is a UDOT facility, so that's all managed, maintained by UDOT. There will be an overlay project that'll happen next summer from 1st North here to 8th North. But everything, yeah, on State Street is a UDOT facility. But if there's things that we recognize, we've been working with the mall, UDOT, and ourselves trying to relocate this intersection at 12 South, take this signalized intersection and move it to this location, and then have a median through here. By doing that, it'll greatly improve the operation of this intersection. This intersection is the busiest intersection in the state. It doesn't have the largest volume, but the number of right turns and the number of left turns and the fact that there's BRT going through it, it is the busiest intersection. So to relocate this signal to the north would allow better stacking, and they could clear this intersection a lot better. The problem is that we have the money set aside to build it. It's just they don't have the property yet, and because this is all private property, the city or UDOT couldn't necessarily come in and condemn. The mall is wanting to have dual lefts, so in order to have those dual lefts to come in, and they wanted to have the dual lefts to go out, then they need to work with these property owners to give them access or purchase it or whatnot. But once we have the right of way for this intersection, then we would move this signal from here to here. We have approached UDOT before about a grade separated intersection here, where we would take maybe Parkway would be at grade and State Street would go below. That would help with a lot of that congestion there too, and get traffic to move. But the mall was not too conducive to that. They wanted to keep their visibility, so that hasn't gone anywhere. So to your point, I mean, we have some pretty big state facilities here. They control them and maintain them, but if they want to do something major, they try and coordinate with the city to make sure that everyone's on board.
Okay, thank you.
Looks like Becky has a question too, Sam.
Okay.
Yeah, can you hear me?
No. No. Barely.
Well,
That's better.
okay. If I shout, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. What about, is there anything going on the Parkway at 800 North, finishing that little strip in front of the parcel of land that's between the hospital and the office buildings, like 400 west, no, 600 west, excuse me.
Yeah, we're actually, so UDOT, we had some money from MAG to do a sidewalk project here. And so UDOT has some safety money, and they were gonna do a project along this side. So we gave them our MAG money, and they're gonna now do a project in this area where they will continue this trail, this 10-foot trail down this frontage of this hospital property. And then they'll also continue this 6-foot or 5-foot, whatever it is, sidewalk along this side, and then connect it here into where we already have sidewalk here in this frontage area. So that is happening. We also are going to be doing a landscape project in here to try and beautify this, probably with more of a native scape. Not quite as native as it is now, maybe a little dressier, but it will be something similar there with some rock. And speaking with the representative of the Boyer Group, they're looking to, with this project happening, I think they're looking to develop the rest of this site. So with that, will likely come a signal. UDOT and Orem have, we've each signed a corridor agreement, access management agreement, and we've identified 600 west, 600 east, and I think 1,000 east as future signals. Those all happening when development happens. And with the hospital looking to expand here to the east into this orchard, I haven't seen what they plan on putting in there, but we will anticipate a signal to be placed here with a right, a through, and a left. And then also probably more what Becky's wanting to know is that this road will then connect through, which will, I'm sure everyone will be thrilled to have that happen. They can't wait to have access to 8th North and everything else.
My neighbors are gonna flip their wigs, but I think it's gonna be good.
I think so too. I mean, I think instead of having to drive through, I mean, it's not as if, I mean, when you look at it from this side of the road, 6th West only goes to 12th North. And I mean only, I know that sounds like it's a long ways, but really to have access to this signal, you're only looking at, and I say only, but you're not, a lot of folks aren't really going to be accessing this one spot. And I know they think the whole city's going to be driving through, but I mean, some of these people will actually be grateful that they're not having to drive in front of their homes anymore. So I think it makes a lot of sense. It'll help with traffic flow. We're gonna have a, you know, we have a signal here, we'll have a signal there. I mean, it'll be nice. Now, obviously, it'll be coordinated. So during the peak hours, 8th North is going to get a majority of that green time, but the folks in here aren't going to have to travel as far. They can get direct access. And I think it'll be a nice thing. But not everyone sees the world the same way that I do, as I found out. But yeah, that is something that's happening. And there's also been we've been working with a developer that owns all of this property down in this area. They are looking to drop in. It's about 25 units on the Orem side and 200 plus units here on the Provo side. At first, they were wanting to have a signalized access here at 1550, but because of the horizontal curves, the vertical curve, and the speed, it's not going to be possible. So we're working with them to figure out how to get a public road that will connect into Provo, as well as partnering with them to improve this bridge and have a public connection here to University Avenue. Other than that, there really isn't anything too major happening that I can think of. We are doing an agreement with UDOT where we're going to be getting some. It's part of a connected vehicle project. UDOT is partnering with Orem. We're gonna, and what it's gonna do is it's going to give priority to emergency service vehicles, as well as a select amount of other types of maintenance vehicles. Currently, I think about a third of our system has a Opticon system on it that allows for emergency service, those being ambulance and fire. They can turn on their emitter in their vehicle, and it will, and if the signal has that Opticon on it, it will go ahead and give that emergency service person green light, so it'll automatically change the signal. But as time has gone on, that system is very antiquated, and we haven't been able to replace it. But UDOT is looking at a system for their connected and autonomous vehicles where they will be giving their snow plows kind of a preemption. So if they're coming down State Street when they got 3 or 4 plows there in a row, and they're right there at that 5 to 10 seconds to where that signal is going to turn red, it'll actually hold that green to allow these guys to go through and keep plowing. And then, so that's what UDOT would like to do. So in conjunction with Panasonic, who has this technology, Orem's going to enter into an agreement, and they're going to, I want to say, put this system on all but maybe 5 or 6 of our signals, and we'll be able to use that for emergency use as far as emergency vehicles, if they're on any of our major routes for our snow plows, and then as well on if there's major routes where there's buses, it will give them some extra green time, only if the bus is behind schedule. So it's an intelligent system that we're going to be partnering with UDOT, and we'll be putting it in our city on our system. So I'm pretty excited about it. It'll definitely update what we have, and it'll give our emergency service providers the ability to respond faster.
I think we should get one each too in our personal cars.
Yeah, I bring it up every time, and they always just say, "And you're responding to." I said, "Well, I got to get to a meeting fast. I mean, I don't know. I got to get there somehow. I mean,
Gotta get to lunch.
Yeah, you got to get to lunch." And usually I just say, I it's just a test, right? I'm not going to use it all the time, but if you need someone to test one,
That's right.
you can go ahead and put it in my car for free. I won't charge you. But yeah, that's what we're doing as well with UDOT. I'm trying to think if we got anything else that's pretty major that's coming up. I don't think so. And
I have a question about Center Street, and from the freeway to State Street. It's every day. It's 3 or 4 hours, morning and afternoon, backed up. 100 cars sometimes.
Mhm.
Anything in the works for expanding Center Street?
Well, so Center Street is on a regional transportation plan, the RTP, to be expanded to a 7-lane facility. We haven't been real supportive of that, just because 7-lane facilities, they kind of become these big barriers, and not only that, but to bring 7 lanes up through to State Street, that's going to be a very large amount of money.
That's huge, yeah.
Yeah. So, and then to back up even further, looking at this piece from Geneva Road to I-15, I mean, I've approached UDOT saying, it makes sense. It doesn't make sense for this piece of this road to be Orem's. I mean, it's between 2 state facilities. It's right at one of your off ramps. It's joining another community. This really should be a state facility, and we should have a jurisdictional transfer. Well, they're like, yeah, you're right, but it's too short. Now, if you want to make Center Street a state facility all the way from Geneva Road to University Avenue, where you're now connecting to a lot of different state facilities, yeah, that totally makes sense. For me, though, I've been hesitant, because at some point I would think that the city's going to probably, how do I want to put this? They're going to want to reinitiate the thought of, okay, do we want a downtown area? And if we do, where should it be? Where do we want to focus growth? Because if all of a sudden you try and put a downtown area, say if we decided, hey, we want the city center to be our downtown area. We want to develop this. This is where we want to create this nexus, this synergy. This is where we want to create some vertical height. We want some density. Then you have a 7-lane facility there, and you have 2 of them crossing. It's kind of hard to make that area really pedestrian friendly and active transportation friendly when, because I guess I think of Provo Center Street. It's 15 miles an hour. You have a lot of crosswalks. cars are slowing down because you have a lot of things happening. We have a 7-lane facility coming up to a 7-lane facility. It doesn't make you feel very intimate. So we've kind of hesitated on approaching UDOT about that, because once it's UDOT's road, UDOT's involved in all of the permitting, all of the access management, the crossings and things like that. So now we just have another partner, which they're a great partner to work with, but UDOT's in the business of moving cars. And if we're trying to create a commercial downtown residential high density mixed use, however you want to spin it, UDOT isn't really there for economic development or growing a city, and that's what cities are for. So if we were to do that here, we might have conflicting ideas, because I don't know, I mentioned it to some of you before. We did a stormwater project on State Street. It was north of the city center to 8th North. And during that time, we had to take the outside lane, and it went all the way up here to 8th North. So we had 3 lanes that were neck down to 2. So it was a congestion mess. Cars were going a lot slower. I mean, I think cars average about 55 miles an hour on this corridor. On this northbound side, they were averaging 25 to 30. It was slow. It was a mess. We got a lot of complaints. But on a positive side, all these businesses in here saw an uptick on sales, because now cars were going slow enough and they could see, oh, there's a shoe store in here. Oh, there's a restaurant. Oh, there's a hobby store. Oh, there's a cabinet store. And these guys all saw a little bump in their sales tax and their profits for that duration, because people could see it and they could go in and visit and shop there. So for me, it's always been like, I know it's 7 lanes, but with 7 lanes is going to be 45 miles an hour. And if we're trying to develop this area, it really doesn't make sense. But I don't know. I don't know what the pulse is. I don't know. I mean, Jeff could probably answer that too. But it's just, if you're looking at planning, and at some point we're going to probably go back to that. It's like, if we're planning something, we really don't want a big wide road going right through the middle of it. So to your point, Russ, yeah, we're aware that it needs to be widened. It's just the cost, and do we want to fund that? And then what does it do to our planning there?
Okay.
Anything else?
I'm just going to say that's a great question and a great point, though, because Center Street is so congested during those times of the day. So with UDOT, Sam, was it kind of an all or nothing? You give us all the way to University or Canyon Road from Vineyard, or would they ever consider Geneva Road to maybe Orem Boulevard scenario?
I don't think, I mean, they would possibly go from Geneva to State Street. I don't know if they would go to Orem Boulevard, but it's not to say that they wouldn't, look at, if we want to create kind of a downtown feel there. I mean, and you can accomplish some of those things, right, with taller buildings that have skywalks. I mean, there's a lot of cities that have those, but it's not so much there. But I mean, typically when you have that downtown area, you have your tall buildings, you kind of step down away from it, and that's kind of where you're wanting to have still all that activity. So, and it just changes. I mean, because we've sat and looked at it, it's like, well, do you take 7 lanes up to 4th West, but then you got to widen 4th West probably to 5 lanes to kind of get that traffic around, right? And UTA is looking to put bus service on Center Street, which is going to be a challenge because there's really not a shoulder for that bus to pull out on. And I think it'd be great, but I've also mentioned to them, because they'd like to have this come online after Vineyard builds their train station, which I think is, I'm not sure. I think it's up in this area. And they want to be able to connect folks from the Vineyard train station, then go up Center Street, which would be great. And I just said, why don't you guys do that? Coordinate with these business owners, offer them free passes, or help build a park and ride. to where folks can come in, they can park, and then we can take that bus that services this area. I mean, if I knew that I could park my truck here and then in like 10 minutes that I could get off here at the Center Street, I'd probably do it, because I mean, that's just less that I have to drive through there, right? I mean, I would use mass transit, and I have used mass transit, but that's when it was fairly convenient. I used to ride from Springville. I catch the bus in Provo, and I go to downtown Salt Lake on an express bus, but that's because it was close to where my destination was. If I want to try and take the bus from Springville to here, it's probably an hour and 20 minutes when I can. I mean, I can drive it in 20, or I could ride my bike in 40. Just doesn't make sense to use it. So I don't know what UDOT will do, but it probably will get to a point to where we either widen it, or we kind of take the stance of, hey, we can't build ourselves out of congestion. It is what it is. Let's promote other modes. You know, I don't know. Anything else? I guess I probably should take a little time and let CJ introduce himself. Both he and Russ, you guys are some of the newer members here. I don't know if you've even, I know CJ hasn't been to any of the meetings. How about you, Russ? Have you attended any?
This is my first one.
Oh. Well, why don't you guys take a little bit of time and introduce yourselves?
Okay, my name is Russ Verhoff. I'm an accountant by trade, and I've been in Orem here for, 35 years. I was on the planning commission there in Orem about 22 years ago, and spent 4 years there, and it was a great experience, and happy to serve on this commission now too.
Well, my name is CJ Meekum, and I'm from Springville originally. I live here in Orem now, obviously. I work for FedEx, just at that facility over in Barrett. Excited to be here. It's very interesting stuff.
Good. I guess we could probably take enough time to introduce the rest of the commission members too, Bernie and Becky. Go ahead and introduce yourself there, Bernie.
I'm Bernie Turner, former police officer for Orem. I retired several years ago. And we got caught up in a town meeting one night, and I ended up on the committee. So we're trying to keep up with things and go from there. Appreciate it.
Becky? Oh, you're muted now.
Okay, how's that?
Good.
I've lived in Orem since 1988, so 34 years. I was also previously on the planning commission and enjoyed that, and just got recruited after that, and here I am.
Very good. I've been here for 20 years, been in the design side, and then kind of moved up through in the engineering division through private development and construction. And then after Ed retired, I was selected to be this city engineer. And then I really wasn't involved with this much because our former transportation engineer, Paul Goodrich, kind of ran with this, but then he retired. I've been doing it until we can find another Paul. So kind of hard to come by these days. He is actually, though, I did hire him as a consultant. He is going to help us review our traffic impact studies. So I did chat with Paul today about that. But anyway, that's us in a nutshell. Does anyone else have, I guess, Jeff, do you want to introduce yourself? Give us a little bit of history about Mr. Lamson?
Jeff Lamson. I'm serving on the city council, and I'm always happy to be able to work along with Sam. I've known Bernie and Kathy for several years, and grateful for their service and everything that they do. And I just want to say also to everyone else, thank you for being willing to serve on this committee. Sam and I, as he mentioned earlier, are in the process of trying to fill a few more spots on this commission, and we're trying to find a group of individuals that has diverse perspectives and points of view, so that we can kind of look at things as far as traffic goes from different points of view. And so thank you for being willing to serve, and thank you for being willing to share your opinions as we move forward, and any insights and thoughts that you have along the way. That just helps in the process. So we hope that that you will be active and vocal and involved in those ways as well.
Very good. Well, that's all I have for tonight. I guess, do we have there's nothing else. I guess, is there a motion to adjourn?
I move that we adjourn.
I'll second.
Okay. Does anyone not want to adjourn? All right. Sounds good. Well, thanks for your time, everyone. And if you have any questions, please feel free to give me a call. If not, we will see you May 3rd.
Great. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Good night.
Thank you.